from here on out, from now on forever, it is now called a tummy button. So if I ever run up to you in the street and say, "Show me your tummy button," that's what I'm talking about.
All right. Context understood. Yeah. Perfect.
Okay, so from tummy buttons to residual limbs. Yes. Was there a particular question that you have?
Well, I think what we kind of want to get into a little bit is, as you were going through the process, what kind of resources were actually available being in a rural setting, what were not available, how you had to mitigate those, and kind of go through that side of things.
Yeah, definitely.
The theme of accessibility. But I think it'd be good just to start a little bit about what happened and some context there, and then we can kind of go through everything if you want to share on that.
Okay, so when my experience was quite unique because I chose to remove a part of my body. A lot of people can't understand the fact that the amount of pain and discomfort that I was in, the lack of mobility, was having just a massive impact on the rest of my body. I was dealing with a lot of other compensatory mobility issues because my left side wasn't working properly. We got to the point where I couldn't really run or jump. If I did, then it would be days before I could do anything physically active again. And it was really starting to take a toll. So when I talked to the doctor and he's like, I don't think I could ever make it, he's this little Scottish guy, I don't think I could ever make it so you can run and jump again unless we chop it off and give you a spring. And I was like, yeah, let's do that. And he's like, maybe a psych appointment first. I'm like, sure, yeah, let's do it. So it actually took 7 months before anybody would chop my leg off for me. I kind of had to advocate for myself to be life is going to be better if you chop something off of me. And people are like, that sounds mental. I'm like, all right, but I still want to do it, right? And some of the experience that I had in the medical system was absolutely bonkers. I had one female doctor tell me, you know what? I think this is a larger conversation that your husband should be a part of. And I was like, why? I'm just curious. I'm not trying to be contrary. I'm just very curious. Why would my husband need to be part of this? Well, it's a very big decision that it's going to impact everybody in your life. And I was like, so I'm clear. I could get liposuction or a boob job or face injections without anybody else knowing in my life until I walk down Main Street and people are like, something's changed. But if I want to chop off a limb, I need my husband's permission. This was a female doctor that I had this conversation with. I thought that was just
that's insane.
Right? So there were definitely some interesting conversations that I had around this. Now, I went through 3 different orthopedic surgeons to determine who it was that I was going to work with to do this amputation.
Was any of that possible up here?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
So I asked for the referrals to 3 different doctors because I did a whole bunch of research and advocated for myself. And I went to my doctor and said, I want referrals to these 3 doctors. One of them was in Prince Rupert, one of them was in Prince George, the other one was in the Lower Mainland, the Scottish guy that I was dealing with for ages. And I wanted to make sure that I was making the most educated decision that I possibly could. So I saw all 3 doctors. I came to the conclusion, yeah, I'm going to chop off my limb. This is the kind of amputation that I want. And I ended up going with Dr. Younger at the Footbridge Clinic in Vancouver. He just had taken care of me so well for the many years that we had been dealing with each other, because my original injury happened in 2009, right? So we were talking 10 years worth of injury, surgery, rehab, back to work, injury, surgery, rehab, back to work. And Dr. Younger was fantastic.
This was the Scottish fellow.
Yeah.
Yep.
I should say.
Yeah.
So when I had my amputation, it was actually right when COVID was starting. So my initial amputation happened in February of 2020. I had a fall 2 weeks out of the hospital, and it was craziest thing. I was literally sitting in my parents' kitchen on Vancouver Island. We were playing rummy, and I had to pee. Got up, turned with my crutches, went to take a step, and I figured this out later. My crutch went onto the empty pant leg on my left side and slipped out from underneath me. And so I literally took a header into the wall, and there's a dresser and stuff. So I had I smoked my face. Luckily, I broke my fall with my face, so there wasn't a lot of damage to Susie.
What's face for?
Right?
Yeah.
It's clearly lead with the face, everything else will be fine.
Yeah.
So,
It's like kissing. Sorry.
it's like, this is definitely a different conversation. So, I had a bad fall. I ended up that I had what's called an ERTL procedure, ERTL, can't remember what it stands for, have to Google it, but basically there's your tibia and fibia in the bottom of your leg. There's a biomechanical space that exists there in order to facilitate proper movement of the knee joint and the ankle joint and all those things. When you take away that ankle joint, that space is just now miscellaneous space. There's nothing to keep it that way. So for high activity and high impact amputees, they often do this procedure called an ERTL, which is where when they take off the bottom, they take a section of these spare parts now that are just gonna, I don't know, get thrown out or burnt or put in a jar. I have different theories. So they take a section of that, they grind down the bone, and they stick it in between your tibia and fibia. That will eventually form into like a bit of a horseshoe once it heals, and then I can actually weight bear on the end of my limb.
Cool.
It also maintains that biomechanical space, so there is less stress and trauma to the knee joint over the course of however many years being in the socket. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So, first fall, annihilated the bone bridge, which really sucked. Even though everything looked like it was still in the same place, it was not properly situated so that it could heal. So in June 2020, in the middle of COVID, I had a second amputation, which is funny to say. So both my amputations, I basically went into the hospital all by myself, was all by myself the whole time. So even though I chose this, it's still a traumatic thing to go through, right? So to be all by myself and not have my partner or my parents or anybody there to support me was very, very difficult. So June 2020, the entire place was completely locked down. Nobody could even come visit me. And then I went through my healing journey. Turns out that one side of the bone bridge healed, the other side of the bone bridge did not. So guess what? Third amputation. Third time's a charm. They shortened it up, put another section of bone bridge in there, and that was in March of 2021. So that was my final amputation. Third time is a charm, and then I went through my, healing to return to my full active duties and my life, which was awesome.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like the overview.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very long overview to answer your question. Now let's talk about rehab. Resources in a rural community like this. For a amputation, which is a major traumatic situation, right? There are so many things that people don't think about when you are taking off a limb, right? How do I carry a plate from the counter where I've prepared food to the kitchen table if I'm on crutches? Basically, I just sat on the counter and ate my food. Right? I also, after a while, once things were healed up, I got one of those.
Did you work with like an OT at first then? To create a home initially, like before obviously you had the prosthetic and all this stuff. Did you work with an OT to set your home up for those first however months of healing?
No.
To better, or did you just
I winged it.
Just winged it?
Yeah.
Which is probably better anyways.
Well, I like to think that I've got a really great imagination. So when it came to figuring out how to do stuff and things, I'm team never quit, right? I definitely team probably should stop sometimes, but I'm team never quit, so I will figure out a way to do this. So I ended up buying one of those Canadian Tire wheelie stools for mechanics, and I would put my plate or my snacks on the bottom circular thing, and then I'd lift the seat up as high as it would go, and I would stand there on my right leg and then put my knee on the top of the wheelie stool, and I would literally wheel myself over to the table with carrying things in my hands. And some of the ways that I decided to try and navigate without a prosthetic actually made me so much better when it came to working with physio and personal trainers in order to get my core back, in order to get my balance back, in order to be able to use that bilateral strength training again. Because I was still trying to do things in a way that would activate my left side without putting too much load on my right side. Mm-hmm. You and I working together in the gym is an excellent example of that. So I don't know if you ever saw the video, but Riley helped me problem solve how to use the assault bike.
I remember hearing about it. I haven't seen the pitch.
Yeah, when I didn't have a prosthetic. So basically we put the assault bike into the cage, put a band over top, and wrapped a band around Susie's thumb. And then when I was using the assault bike and I was pedaling, I would move my left as though I was pedaling, even though there was nothing there. And the resistance of the band made me able to activate my left side in the same way. So it was so cool, so cool. I loved working through stuff like that.
It's very cool.
So because of my background in personal training and nutrition, I think I was very well set up as an individual to focus my energy and my healing in a way that was very conducive to a positive healing journey, right? I also did struggle a little bit with things like access to an OT. So it's the middle of COVID, right? Mm-hmm. Yes, a lot of my healing has to be done here at home, and that's fine, but you have to find somebody to come in and clean your home because I've got 2 dogs, or 3 at the time, and couldn't vacuum the house by myself, right? We once had a Roomba commit suicide because it was going around upstairs and it worked for like 3 months, and then one day it just decided to throw itself down the stairs. It's like, fuck this, too much dog hair, I'm out. Just threw itself down the stairs. I'm like, oh, sorry buddy, you've had a great run. My apologies.
To get an AI next cast.
Yeah.
Exactly. I needed something out of the Jetsons.
Yeah.
And I actually joked with the prosthetic guy. I was like, is there a way that I can have like a robot vacuum foot where just as I walk around, it's just like zoom, 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 and I can just like suck up the dog hair with my robo foot. He's like, well, we can talk about that. I was like, yes.
We should cut that and that's $1 million idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, cut that out.
Yeah.
Have like a vacuum backpack, and then the tube could just like run under your leg. I'd support it.
Right?
Yeah.
Shark Tank! So, I'm very lucky in that all of this is work related. My original injury was as a result of work. The multiple injuries after work were, I fell down the stairs at work, like just crazy shit that happened. So there's a very clear tracking of it. All of it dates back to my RCMP activity and my duties. So I was very well taken care of by my medical plan with the RCMP, and I am so grateful for that. So grateful. I had contacted, there was one other RCMP officer who had a traumatic incident, lost her leg. It was like a life or limb. She needed to have that chopped off right away. Her name's Lori White. I think I mentioned her at some point to you guys previously. So in the 150 years of the RCMP, there have been 2 police officers who have, had an amputation, rehabbed, returned back to full active duty. She's the first, I'm the second.
Is her picture up at the GF Strong Rehabilitative? Yeah, I've seen pictures of her.
She also just wrote a book and got published.
Unreal.
Really? She is one of the most inspiring ladies ever.
I remember seeing pictures of her, and they had her in uniform when I was at the GF Strong program for my concussion, and I was like, wow, that's pretty cool.
It's pretty amazing also. She is one of the coolest humans.
What's her book called?
1033, An Officer Down Steps Back Up. I'll lend you my copy.
Yeah,
it's signed by the author.
Right on.
Nice.
So there, like in this 150 years, there have been 2 of us, both females, both gingers.
Nice.
That tracks though.
Yeah, totally nice. Yeah. More strength than sense, I think.
There's some salt just to add there.
Definitely.
100% of all people. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if all the future RCMP prosthetic wearing individuals are also female gingers.
Team should have stopped.
Yeah.
I want to maybe get your thoughts on, you had started when you were going through that journey, obviously the sit down with your doctor there, the self-advocacy part.
Yes.
Because I haven't read this other lady's book, but I'm going to guess that she would have also needed to do a lot of self-advocacy for things to either, your situation was to obviously get the amputation.
Yeah.
Hers maybe would have been to just break some barriers, so on and so forth, to maybe come back to. What advice would you have for people that, maybe it's not amputation, but when we think about the resources in the north, and even you did have to go down to the lower mainland, maybe some lack of resources here for people to like advocate for themselves when it comes to health issues or injuries or so on and so forth. Do you have any thoughts on that? And
I have so many thoughts.
yeah, I know that.
Like, but being mindful of the fact we only have a certain amount of time, I got so many thoughts. So, first and foremost, I did talk about having to advocate for myself for making this decision. As a result of that, if I go to the doctor and I say, I have a problem, can you fix me? That's one thing. If I go to the doctor and I say, I have this problem, this is the research that I've done, these are my ideas, can you work with me on this? It is a completely different approach, right? I decided that I wanted to take a collaborative approach because guess what? I'm not a doctor, okay? That's like my ginger gen disclosure. I am not a doctor. I have not gone to medical school. I do not know all the stuff and things. I've just done some reading and done some research and lived in my body for 40 years. So I have a fairly good idea of what's going on with this. I just need to know how I can go about doing these things. One of the biggest hurdles I have found being in the north and access to certain very particular specific things is actually going by the wayside because of COVID. So as much as that was a huge hindrance for the world, and I mean it was like a modern day plague, it also modernized communication with other options, right? So one of the things that I wanted to mention was the lady that I worked with. I brought up Lori White because when I decided this amputation was going to happen, I contacted her and I was like, hey, who is your rehab specialist? She's done this once for another op. I think she could do it for me. So I tracked her down and located her, and I was like, who can I talk to? She gave me guidance to go to this Linda McLaren lady who was the amputation rehabilitation specialist at GF Strong for 35 years. This woman is literally like a wealth of knowledge. If I could, without sounding really creepy, just like dig my fingers into her brain and like absorb all of the smarts that she has about this, that is what I wanted to do. I wanted to just be a sponge and soak up all of her knowledge. She made that possible by working with me at a distance.
Cool.
When I was down in the lower mainland, she would come to my prosthetic appointments with me. She would help me learn how to navigate communication, not just with the prosthetist who is making make sure I very clearly articulate that one, because anyways, when I go to the robot foot builder, she not only taught me how to communicate with him, but she also helped me navigate how I am feeling inside this socket, to the point where when I came back home to work through different stages of my rehab in my own space, in my own home, with my own medical team up here, I would do phone call or video connections with her, where she would have me walk back and forth in my kitchen. She'd have me stand and balance and do different things. And she would actually, like, we would have like a video physio appointment.
Cool. And
it was spectacular, because then it wasn't just, okay, there's all of that knowledge down there, how do I get to it? Sorry. It was all of that knowledge down here, and this is how I can get to it, or how I can receive it. So that was an amazing experience. I think that a lot of people, what I was saying, coming back to the doctor appointment, if you go into a doctor's office and you're like, I jujoled this medicine and I think I need to be on it, the doctor might be like, okay, we can talk about that. But if you have an idea of the ability to explain, this is what's going on with me and my body or my mental health and well-being, these are, you know, a couple of ideas that I had to try different modalities, different therapies, different ideas for care, and approaching it from a collaborative way. Like, what are your suggestions, doc? Not only does it help to isolate the problem that you are going there for, you are demonstrating I'm willing to explore these options, and you are offering the doctor the opportunity to say, okay, well, I don't know much about X, so why don't I suggest you go and communicate with this person and they can tell you about X. Or I know lots about Y and I can tell you about Y, but you might need to try this and this. Or, you know, Z, I've never heard of that, let's jujol it together and we'll figure it out.
Gotcha.
So I definitely love the collaborative approach, and it has made my doctor's appointments so much more efficient. So much more efficient. Because then instead of going to somebody and being like, hey, I have a problem and you need to fix it, you're going to somebody and you're like, how do we fix this together? And that is one of the ways that I feel like I advocate for myself. That is also one of the ways that I feel like I have been able to feel like I am more in, I don't want to say in control, but I'm participating more in learning about my body and learning what is available out there for therapies and modalities to help me rehab.
Yeah, you're not like a passive recipient.
Yeah.
You're an active participant.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I mean, yeah, if everyone, when they go to see doctor or even physio, any healthcare provider they go to, if they're like, this is what's been going on, these are some ideas I've had, some things I've heard about, I've done some research, or maybe they weren't able to do research, but they've heard good things about this, like, what's the info, do you think that's going to work for me, how can we do this together? And it's just going to show that provider that, like you guys just said, you're more active and like ready to be bought into that process. And things will definitely move a lot quicker than just like, I need help, and the doc's like, well, I can't give them this yet because I don't really know how invested they are, so we'll try something very minimal, and then maybe that doesn't get the effects right away, and someone gets discouraged, and things just start snowballing in the other direction almost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Did you have to practice that? Because I'm sure you've had clients like this as well. You'll get people who they couldn't articulate what's going on inside their body. Sometimes they don't know what's going on inside their body. Sometimes they know what's going on in their body, but it's the articulation piece that's the problem. Like, do you feel like your communication had to shift, or is it something that you were already good at before?
Well, I mean, I've done...
We talked a lot about communication in the last podcast.
Plug.
Yeah.
Watch the last one.
Episode something.
Episode 2?
Probably a 2. Probably. Sounds like a 2.
Yeah.
Anyways, check out the previous Ginger Gem podcast for lots about communication. But as a broad spectrum, throwing it out there, I have learned so much about communication in the last 15 years of policing, right? Every situation requires a different level of communication. You have to communicate differently with a dog than you do with a child, right? You have to communicate differently with an elderly patient who, doesn't have the best hearing and is always like, what? Than you do with like your own mom, where you're like, Mom, I love you when you fell in the snow, kind of thing. So honestly, it does matter who you're communicating with. But yes, the first and foremost, I am a huge advocate for learning about yourself and learning how to identify what is happening inside your own body. That's number one. Number two is being able to articulate what's going on inside your own body. And I would not have gotten as far as I did if it wasn't for going to counseling, working with Linda, this physio who is so specialized in, helping me learn how to communicate. And that is something that I really encourage other people to do, is talk through what's going on with your body all the time.
Yeah.
Right? All the time. Don't wait until you're in a stressful situation, for a lot of people, which is in a doctor's office, and the doctor's like, especially like a surgeon who comes in and is like, I'm reviewing your finger x-ray and I want to know what's going on and tell me what happened. And you're just like, I hurt my finger. Right?
Yeah.
So don't wait until you're in those situations to talk through it, right? Okay, you're stacking firewood at home. You're like, oh, okay, well, my back's a little stiff. Why do you think it's stiff? Okay, well, probably because I've loaded all of it on my right arm every time I'm stacking. Okay, well, then I gotta load the left arm, take a look at the load off the back. And the more comfortable you get talking through, it doesn't have to be out loud. I mean, it could be. You could sound like a total crazy person talking to the pile of firewood. Not like I judge. A little bit. Just kidding. So, yeah, I definitely encourage people to talk through what they're doing all the time, because not only does it make them think about what they're doing, it also makes them think, how do I explain what I'm doing? How do I explain what I'm feeling? How do I explain what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Totally. I think that I experienced that with my brain injury recovery, because I was journaling a lot about it.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Basically every time I was in session with a professional, I'd be like, well, this is what I wrote last night. And then you would have that articulation, like as hands-on
Absolutely.
tools.
Absolutely. I also love notes.
Yeah.
Love notes. So, after a workout or after a gym session, especially with you guys, like if you give somebody, let's say banded pull-aparts, and they do them 3 times a week for a week, but they're not really feeling it, well, why aren't you feeling it? When you say, I'm not feeling it, what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is definitely a Lindaism, where we talk about the macro is, I'm not feeling the pull-aparts. Well, what is the micro? Let's break it down and look at the micro steps. Are you holding the band at this level? Are you activating your shoulder blades? Are you using those muscles? Are you, all of those different things. We look at a problem as though it is a macro problem. We need to break it down into micro things.
Mm-hmm.
And journaling can absolutely help that. Also, I love that you said, I'd bring my journal in to talk to the session and talk to the doctor. Yeah, absolutely.
Come prepared.
Exactly. Like have notes on your phone and be like, I need to read this to you because I have a hard time talking just off the cuff. But this is what I'm reading, right?
Yeah.
Doctors love that. The more information that you can provide your service providers, the better you can communicate with them, the better they are going to be able to assist you.
Totally. Mm-hmm. It also shows, you think about that doctor who was saying that you should have your husband present or whatever. You're going to have a lot of people who are like, this is an extreme request that you're making. But if you come with your notes and you're able to articulate it, it's like, okay, this is an extreme request, but the person has actually considered what they're looking for. Whereas if someone came in and they're like, I don't know, their shirt's on backwards, and cut off my leg. You're gonna be like, let's recap.
Maybe a psych appointment first.
Yeah, exactly. So it demonstrates that there's a high level of conscientiousness and consideration to the medical request you're looking for.
Well, it also, I think it says a lot to the person that you're communicating with about your investment. Riley touched on this earlier, right? As a personal trainer, somebody comes to you and they're like, I was told to get a personal trainer because I want biceps like Nathan. And you're like, okay, cool.
Those only come from Zeus himself.
Designed by the gods.
Yeah.
So I want Henry Cavill legs. Okay, well that's great. But first, you're 5'2", right? You eat nothing but pizza and beer. So let's start there. And they're like, I just want the workout. I'm not going to change my diet. How invested are you guys in helping that person get Henry Cavill thighs if they're like, yeah, I'm just going to keep eating exactly what I'm eating?
Totally.
Right?
Yeah, it's challenging.
But if that same person comes to you and is like, I have been going to counseling. They said it would be great to get a personal trainer and work on my physical fitness. I also would love to talk about appropriate nutrition to support what I'm doing. You're like, shit, yeah, I'm bought into this. I'm invested.
Yeah, big boy.
Right? It's not a waste of your time and energy to invest time and energy in these other people.
It's hard to be in a position of authority when the people who are coming to your authority don't want to listen to your authority.
Oh, absolutely.
So, yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense. It's like, hey, I know that you're a professional and I'm going to fork out a ton of money, but I actually don't want to listen to you. Let me tell you what I need.
Yeah.
All right.
I want glutes like Captain America, but I'm never gonna squat.
Yeah.
Okay. Good luck.
Good luck. Yeah, for sure. The I'm super curious. I know we kind of touched on this, but I want to recircle back. The emotional decision. We were talking about this yesterday. The emotional decision to like amputate part of your body would be super fascinating. I'm curious if you can dive into that. I've actually met and worked with people in the downtown east side. So they have a plethora of like cognitive disabilities, and they had limbs that should have been amputated, and they could not part. The process of like an amputation was just so scary that they would just have this limb.
Yep.
What was that like?
So, I have to move. Let's just preface this. I definitely should have been a Ritalin child. My poor mother. She says having me was like, like having me was like having triplets, and I was like, sorry, Mom, why do you have another one like after me? Because I come from a family of 4, right? So there's 2 older, 1 younger. I was like, Mom, if I was like having triplets, why did you have another one? She's like, well, I figured couldn't get any worse. Yeah, that's fair. Facts. So, I have to move in order to be happy. I have to be active. My ability to be active and to be physically moving through this world was so hindered that it didn't matter all of the other things that I tried to make myself happy with less and less and less and less mobility. I recognized none of these things are going to be making me happy. The biggest component for a lot of people is pain. Right? And I decided I can live with the pain as long as I can be mobile.
The physical pain?
Yeah, the physical pain.
Gotcha.
So in my brain, I got to the point where I was like, okay, if this fixes the pain, amazing. But I don't really care. I can live with the pain. I've already shown for 10 years I can live with pain and discomfort and be totally functional. It sucked, don't get me wrong, but I can live with pain as long as I can be physically active. Because then I can be physically active, and then I can do my other things like counseling and therapy, appropriate gentle rest, non-sleep deep rest, all these other things, being outside, being with my dogs, all these other things that make me happy, and be physically active. So once I had made that decision, I was like, okay, this is just logic. It's not emotion, it's logic. And my ability to separate logic and emotion is one of the reasons that I think I have been able to be in policing for as long as I have. Because there is the separation of those 2 brains.
Yeah.
Right?
Compartmentalization.
Was I nervous? Absolutely. Did I experience some fear? Yeah, sure I did. Because it's scary, right? But I also recognized that the emotion of trying to keep something that no longer worked for me, that hurt me, that hindered me, that didn't make sense when you separate the logic from the emotion. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Totally. It's a phenomenal ability to keep like the bigger picture in sight. Like I think so many people would be in this situation, and I don't know if they'd be able to like juggle like the long-term result they're looking for with like how acutely uncomfortable that's going to be. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Well, I try really hard to do the macro micro, right? Micro, this hurts right now, it really sucks. Long-term, big picture, this hurts right now, it really sucks, and it's emotionally draining and psychologically traumatizing. Yeah. I'm not allowed to be functional, and it sucks. Yeah. Right? But the macro is, am I willing to live with this for the rest of my life? Yeah. Or, looking at big picture, do I want to take a huge step forward in a happier existence.
Yeah.
I also liken it, you asked me about the emotional. When I tell people the story about deciding to get rid of my leg, it's kind of like being in a bad domestic relationship. Okay? I was in a bad domestic relationship with my leg. I wanted a divorce. When I tell people, the first thing that they would respond with was, hey, good morning. How this made them feel. They were like, oh my God, I could never do that. That is the number one thing that I would get as a response when I was like, by the way, I'm chopping off my leg. They'd be like, oh my God, I could never do that. I could never live without my limb. I could never do that. Well, it's not about you guys. It's about me. And I'm in this bad domestic relationship. I'm not getting anything back from my manky ankle. It is causing me pain and discomfort. And I want a divorce. But people were like, whoa. Maybe some counseling, right? So you two can communicate better, right? No, I've tried it. Want a divorce. That's really drastic. What about a new fitness activity? Something a little more gentle where the two of you can connect better and you can move more fluidly together as a couple. No, I want a divorce. Finally, it got to the point where I was like, this person, this ankle does not give me joy. Let's Marie Kondo this shit and get rid of it.
That's awesome. We were like, remember last night, because we were talking about in preparation for this, we were talking about like how do you have a send off for your leg?
Yeah,
like
what's your send off?
Yeah, no, like if I'm putting my dog down, you're gonna give him peanut butter and you're gonna pet him a lot and kiss him goodbye. But if you're like, were you just like, I hate this ankle, I would cut it off myself? Or did you literally get a pedicure? Like what?
Yeah.
What's your send off?
So, my best friend in this whole entire world, Katie Kmet, she's an artist here, so there's
look up her stuff.
KatieKmet.com. It's amazing.
Good.
So she has been my best friend for 20 years. And I don't even know where this came from, but when she eats an apple in the car, we roll down the window and she goes, see you in hell, apple core, and throws it out. Right? Don't panic, it's organic. We're driving, it'll be fine. But for whatever reason, I was laughing about that at some point, and I was like, Katie, I want you to draw something on my leg as a send-off, as a goodbye. There's no point in tattooing it because I don't want to spend the money on something that's going to be deleted, right? So she drew an apple core on my left leg. So, and she did it in Sharpie and with my ginger skin. It was basically a tattoo. Yeah. And it was on there for like a week and a half. And I go into the hospital for my amputation and the doctor comes in and he's like,
X marks the spot, I guess.
I don't think I've ever seen anything like that before. It was so funny. But yeah, every time I looked down at that, I was like, see you in hell.
That's awesome.
It's like, some people want to remain friends with their exes. Me, I'm like, no, you need to not exist anymore.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's super funny. I'm glad that there's a story behind it.
Definitely.
Because I was like, there has to be a send-off story. Like, how could there not be? Yeah.
Yeah.
And now you're a volleyball player.
Yeah.
Well, I've always played volleyball. I played volleyball.
One-legged volleyball player.
Exactly. Flamingo volleyball player.
Yeah. Now you're an Olympic volleyball player.
Paralympic. And I haven't got to the Paralympics yet, but yes, I am part of Team Canada, the women's Paralympic sitting volleyball team. It's pretty amazing. A lot of people, myself included, didn't even know this was a sport until I became a flamingo. Or I was actually working with Linda in the prosthetics clinic. I don't know how much of a rant, or it's 9. I don't know how much you want me to go down this path.
I think we have a little bit.
Okay, I've got a little story.
Let's aim for a 10-minute exit. Okay, Jared's saying keep going.
Thanks, Jared.
Jared's our time regulator.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was in the prosthetic clinic talking to one of the prosthetists, and Linda was there, and I was like, you can't tell me that you can't make me a leg that's going to fit so well that I can do these things. I want to keep playing volleyball, and I want to do these things. And I looked at this magazine. It's called Thrive magazine. It's done by an amputee for amputees. Lots of amazing articles in there. So I don't get anything back, but plug that magazine. It's called Thrive.
Cool.
And on the front of this magazine, there's this girl who is Team Canada sitting on the court, and she's got both of her legs cut off below the knees, but she's wearing these little legs, so like little leg covers, and she's sitting on the court, and she's just about to serve. I was like, look at this chick. She doesn't have any legs, and she's still playing volleyball. I want to be as awesome as this chick. And Linda's sitting in the corner. She's like, oh, I know her, by the way. I can introduce you. I was like, no, I know her, by the way. I can introduce you. She's like, no, really, Ginge, I can't. I was like, oh, I beg your pardon. So I put the magazine down, and it was a turning point for me because Linda says she actually plays sitting volleyball for Team Canada. Would you like to talk to her? I was like, shit, yes, I would. That'd be amazing. So her name is Felicia Vosh-Shafiq, number 15 on the team.
She's still on the team.
She's still on the team. And she and I had a video chat, and then I was like, yeah, I played volleyball in high school, and I played volleyball mostly for a very short period of time, and then I lost my scholarship, but ended up doing stupid things the way college kids sometimes do. So that was always like a missed opportunity for me. But I was like, yeah, I played in rec leagues, and I just played whenever I could, and it's something that I love doing. It's lots of fun. She's like, okay, well, the next time you're down in Vancouver for a prosthetics appointment, if you were interested, you can come and practice with us just for funsies. So I was like, okay. Oh my God, so cool. Oh, I'm so excited. So I went down, her and the other BC athlete, Danny Ellis, they meet at the velodrome in Burnaby, and they practice twice a week for a couple hours. So for almost a month, I ended up going and practicing with these girls. I had so much fun. So sitting volleyball, very similar to standing volleyball, except the court is a little bit smaller. The net, instead of it being super high, because we are sitting on the ground, the net is quite low. So I think it's 107 centimeters tall for women and 112 for men. But basically, we are sitting on the court. There's still 6 people. Same rules apply. Bump, set, spike. You can block a serve, and you can...
As it should be.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's why they want me, because I'm so tall at the net that I'm just
You eliminate like half the court
right?
where they have to serve.
It's like playing behind a piece of plywood.
Yeah.
I'll save your face! Boom! So after that month of practicing with the girls, I was like, oh my God, this is so much fun. They're like, just so you know, I think the coach would like to chat with you. And I was like, what? Like, really? They're like, yeah. So I phone and have a conversation with Nicole Ban, the coach, and she's like, yeah, we're having a camp. This was February. She's like, do you want to come to January I was in. Do you want to come to the February camp? I was like, sure. She's like, you can just see what it's like to, be around these girls. And it was spectacular because I'd only been an amputee for like a year. And I was finding it emotionally a little bit difficult because I'm somebody who doesn't like to talk about how hard things are, but sometimes I needed to say, this is really hard, but I would say it to somebody and I'd say it to my husband, he'd be like, yeah, but you're doing so good, everybody's so encouraging, but at some point I just wanted somebody to be like, I can appreciate that would be fucking hard. Right? Well, now all of a sudden I'm surrounded by an entire flock of flamingos who are all like, oh yeah, that's hard when you have to do that. Like, it doesn't take away the fact that we are doing it, we're being positive, and we're trying to, stay awesome. But they're like, oh yeah, that's hard. I'm like, okay, good. Other people have hard things too. I'm not the only one. I finally felt like I had people who understood what I was trying to go through.
Mm-hmm.
So it was amazing. February camp was awesome, and within a couple of days, the coach was like, so do you have a passport? And I was like, no. I'm a total homebody, and I really follow my being in the woods and not talking to people. She's like, okay, well, you might want to get one, because we're going to Boston in a couple of weeks, and we want to take you with us. I was like, yes!
Nice.
So that's how it started, and after I went to Boston, she's like, do you want to join the team? And I was like, yup. So cool! And now they're just like, hey, you want to travel the world and live with your friends? So I was like, sure, that'd be, you know.
I mean, I could schedule it in. Like,
That'd be okay, I guess.
Thursday, 3 weeks from now. Yeah, it'll work. Yeah.
So we are a national team. There are flamingos all across Canada. We have a bunch of different people in a bunch of different provinces, and we all flock to Edmonton about once a month for a like 5-day. Just in the background.
We'll be there.
We flock to Edmonton for about 5 days.
Just second door alone, Russell.
Hard practice, and then we do our own individual training regionally when we are home, and then anytime there's a competition, we usually go for a couple of days to Edmonton, train as a team, so we get that cohesiveness, that unity, and then we go to wherever it is that we're doing a competition. So really quick plug for the team. We have a spot in the Paris 2024 Paralympic Games. We are now officially ranked #1 in our zone. And in the last year and a half that I've been with the team, we have won 3 silver medals. So I am confident we are going to medal at the Paralympics, and we are going for gold.
Nice. That's super cool.
It's so exciting.
Are you, I guess, to finish? Do you have anything? No. Just to finish, is there anything for people around here that can do to get involved, or that you do around here that they could be involved with what you're doing for training, or hang out with you, try it out? Because I mean, I know I took an adaptive in school and stuff, and like I played a bunch of senior volleyball just in the course, and it's like unreal. It's fun. It's just another sport to like go and do and recreate or compete at too at the high levels. Is there ways people can be a part of that around here?
So I am always looking for people who have played volleyball, who would like to try sitting volleyball, or people who haven't tried playing volleyball and playing sitting volleyball. I would love to have more volunteers who would like to participate, who are interested in trying it. I practice 2 or 3 times a week, usually. The school district has been amazing. They are actually giving me the gym, like, I guess pro bono or for free or whatever.
Yep.
Basically, normally people have to, pay to train, but they are supporting me in my regional training by giving me the gym space for free. It is spectacular. So if people are interested, I guess I'd have to find a way to connect with those people. So maybe, I don't know, byline under the podcast, we can put my email, and if people are interested and want to come out and give it a try or just have a look, then maybe we can link the Instagram for Team Canada, and I think there's a TikTok for Team Canada, and then we can put my email address underneath there, and if they're interested in trying it, and like even if all you want to do is come and be a pylon at the net so that I have to learn how to hit around the blocker, that's amazing.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
You do not have to be good.
Perfect.
You can just be a pylon. You can just sit there and be a target.
Nice.
Actually, you can come out. You got big hands. Anybody with big hands, I'm like, yes, sit at the net. I have to hit off and around that.
There you go.
It's perfect.
That sounds super fun.
There we go.
Right on.
Episode 8.
Episode 8, recording we're all. Cheers.
Cheers.